culture pastor.
So, Cody, I'm kind of hungry, and I'm thinking maybe we should have spaghetti tonight.
Spaghetti or key lime pie.
Spaghetti and timely meatballs. That was shocking.
That's how I knew he's related to Reed Richards.
You're jumping on the crackpot theories a little early. A little early. Hello, good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this, because it doesn't really matter when we're recording this. It's all about when you're listening to this. This is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And also Matt's here.
Yes, I am.
Matt is afraid to talk now because I turned up his mic.
It works.
Yeah. But he's here, and we're here to talk about episode 4 of
Quattro.
season 2 of Loki. This episode's called The Heart of the TVA. And after last week, it was it's kind of nice to be thrown back into the action a little bit. Because that last week's episode was took place in 1898 or whatever. And it was just it was kind of fun. But at the same time, it was I felt like it got diffused a little bit, the tension of everything. But now we're back.
I appreciate a good adventure through space and through time. So,
yeah. So, it was a good episode. Lots of action, lots of fun stuff. Let's just start at the beginning. Ravonna and Miss Minutes. Ravonna was sent to the Citadel at the end of time. She sees He Who Remains, who's his body that is decomposing. Did we have any thoughts about that? We didn't really talk about that in the last episode. And then after the fact, I kind of wondered, should we have talked about that? Some people were like, hey, what's going on here? I thought it was outside of time, but no, it's the end of time.
Yeah.
And time, I thought, some people were talking about it and recapping about it. Why is his body decomposing? Well, time still passed there because there was the point in the last episode of season 1 where he says, I don't know what's happening from this point forward. Right. So time's still moving there. So I didn't really understand why people were like, oh, that's telling us something. I was like, it's telling me you don't pay attention.
Well, it told me he was still dead.
Yes, that's true.
He seems very much dead. And then when there were other people who were like, it's a trick. He's not really dead. I don't know. He looks pretty dead.
Really dead.
But that's where Sylvie sent Ravonna at the end of the episode last week. And Miss Minutes has apparently followed her there.
I honestly thought that we were building towards Marvel Zombies when we got there. That was my initial crackpot theory that he was going to come alive, but not have a brain to use.
That would have been too out there. And too out there is reserved for Taika Waititi. And he's not involved in this.
How dare you?
So Ravonna and Miss Minutes, the episode last week ended on sort of a cliffhanger with Miss Minutes telling me something. I want to show you something make you real angry.
Yeah.
And the real angry thing is a conversation we've already heard.
Yeah.
Because Loki heard the conversation back in episode 1. It's a conversation between He Who Remains and Ravonna. And basically it's the whole conversation we heard where Ravonna's clearly been leading He Who Remains army in the multiversal war. And then we get to hear a little bit longer in the conversation after Ravonna goes back to the TVA and He Who Remains says, wipe their memories. And Ravonna gets to see all that. And she's not happy.
She is mad.
She says, so he could keep sitting on his throne while I did all the work of running the TVA. She was the leader of the armies. Did we have any thoughts about that? Or she's like the general? I don't know. I'm still not quite sure what a multiversal war looks like. But she was supposed to rule beside him. But that's not what happened. And Ravonna is, Miss Minutes turns out to be exactly right. She's not, Ravona's a little unhappy about that.
Yep.
Heartbreaking.
Meanwhile, back at the TVA, we've got Victor arriving. Who's immediately brought to OB. They're fangirling each other, right? Like OB and Victor are both OB being like, oh wow, you're the guy that started all this. And of course, to Victor, he's like, oh well, I only know what I know because you wrote this great book. And then we get the Ouroboros thing,
the
don't
true
we?
Ouroboros there.
Yeah, the loop that's happening between Ouroboros and Timely. There's a lot of technical stuff thrown around about the temporal loom, but basically, if we're putting it in our terms, it needs to be fixed. And they needed Victor's aura, the He Who Remains, the variant of He Who Remains. They needed his aura to be able to open it up. Unfortunately, the radiation out there is making it much harder. It's supposed to be worse than when Mobius went out there before. And OB and Victor are trying to figure out a solution. Mobius casually suggests go getting pie at this point, which I'm just like, yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and
Who
hot
doesn't
chocolate.
do that?
I'm like, oh, yeah. You guys should eat.
And some hot chocolate.
The hot chocolate machine. First of all, Jonathan Majors playing Victor Timely is somewhat. I went through cycles because I was annoyed at times. Like, man, he's just a little too far out there. He's taking it a little too far.
Wasn't far enough.
And then I'd be like, oh, that was just adorable. The whole hot cocoa thing was sort of adorable.
It was.
And yeah. But they casually go getting pie. Sylvie gets mad. Makes another dig at Mobius about, I bet you haven't even checked out your space, which, like they keep throwing that out there. We're definitely going to explore that at some point in the next 2 episodes, are we not?
I believe so.
That would be spoiling things.
I mean, there's foreshadowing, and then there's hitting you in the head with a bat, which is what this show has done a couple times as far as it applies to Mobius and whatever life he was supposed to be living. So, and Mobius is clearly starting to crack in that regard. He's saying that he's talking the big game, but he really wants, you can see there's something inside him that he wants to. But then he kind of talks about that, right? He's like afraid to. He's afraid to see, what if it's really good?
Yeah.
And so there's all that. He hasn't looked into it. Mobius's past, his origins. I don't know. All of that's kind of confusing because the show's placing a lot of emphasis on it, and it seems like it's going to be a thing. It's just not a thing yet. It's just a conversation piece. Sylvie ends up there in that area with the pies, and her and Loki start having this discussion, which a large part of this, Cody, I think, had the emotional meat of the episode. They have this discussion about how to do things with the TVA, how the new TVA should exist, basically. And Sylvie seems reluctant to do any of this. Loki tries to explain it to her. She says, sounds like, you're playing God, which she has said before. Mm-hmm. To which Loki responds, we are gods.
We are gods.
As we walk out of the room.
He's not wrong.
And it continues. B-15 goes to try to talk to Docs, who they have in custody. They're trying to get Docs and her crew. They decide they need them. Why that isn't really explained with too much detail. I'm not sure why, other than they're just undermanned. They need Docs when Renslayer comes back. That's the big thing is Renslayer's come back. We're going to need them. I'm not sure why I'm supposed to be so afraid of Renslayer at that point. But then, we see Miss Minutes later on and it gets creepy.
Miss Minutes is a show stealer.
Yeah. So she convinces Docs. It seems like they're in. Maybe X5 is struggling a little bit with it. But Ravonna shows up after that's happened. starts talking to Docs and the crew, and it ends poorly.
For
them.
liked Doc's holding to her that she's part of the TVA.
Yeah.
You know, that she's not going to cave. Mm-hmm. It doesn't fare well for her, though.
Yeah. It's interesting to watch. It was interesting to watch that scene because we don't know a lot about Docs other than she was the bad guy 2 episodes ago. Now she's in there, but you're supposed to think of her as someone, well, I'm just doing what I thought needed to be done. She's going by the old TVA standards still. And we talked a lot about that a couple episodes ago about, well, when you feel like you're at war, when you feel like you're doing what needs to be done for survival, how far will you go? Do you think about the innocent lives involved? We talked about how there's real world parallels to that. And Docs is interesting here because they're in holding. She talks to B-15. B-15 is very convincing, saying, hey, you are all about the TVA. You've given your life, your whole calling to this organization. Now I'm telling you it's this. And so she sold her on it. But then Ravonna shows up and asks her to turn. Doc says no. Most of the people in there are with Docs except for Brad.
B-Rad.
And then Ravonna puts them all in one of those neat little cubes that Loki had Brad in. And although we don't see it, it's maybe one of the cringiest Marvel kill moments I think ever. And all with Miss Minutes in the background, like just in glee, which there were some genuinely creepy moments in Multiverse of Madness, but that was super creepy.
You could hear it.
Yeah.
You could hear.
So I had beef with this. I'm not going to lie. Like, they had done so much foreshadowing of when B-15 was in the room earlier. Like, oh, here's this machine that no one took out of here. We just left it in here. And, oh, well, we have jumped through space and time, and now we have the machine. It's like, they're all going to get squished.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not.
It was
I don't know.
too much.
I was caught up in the brutality of it all to really think about the details.
Like, so for me, it was more cringe with Miss Minutes in her demeanor, because like, this is just supposed to be AI, and why does it now have like emotional?
Now? What do you mean now?
I'm saying
2 episodes ago, we knew she was in love with He Who Remains.
I'm just saying,
and things got weird.
That it's like really creeping me out how we have gone off the res.
Yeah.
With this AI technology.
This is Marvel's version of the Terminator right now. It's Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
And she's fully got a mind of her own, and I think that makes her kind of scary. And it was full blown. I thought that was full blown scary. I was appalled by what Ravonna was doing, but I was straight up creeped out by Miss Minutes' reaction in that was just, my goodness.
She's more insane than Ultron.
Yeah. I mean,
about it.
Kind of. Yeah. It was wild.
At least Ultron had motives like, well, humanity destroys everything. Just get rid of them.
Then these folks, these 3, Ravonna, Miss Minutes, and X5, Brad. I don't know why I'm calling him X5. He's Brad. They take off to go after Victor. Miss Minutes shuts down everything, shuts down everyone's TEM pads. That's how they know they're back. Let's see. What happens next? Loki and Sylvie, with the systems all down, Loki and Sylvie act quickly.
Oh, you didn't say that they rebooted the system. That's because Miss Minutes had blocked them from doing stuff, so they had to reboot, which was a big deal. That's
important because so they catch up to Victor, right? They've got Victor right when Miss Minutes gets in the system gets rebooted. There's an important piece of information in there. Because first of all, the whole Miss Minutes getting rebooted, shut down thing was super cool the way they did that. And then she creepily comes back. She's got like a half face and some digital things going on, but you can see the eye is like creepy. And she says, "You'll never be him." And it's just like, oh man, what does that mean? Well, we find out in just a little while. Loki and Sylvie, they do their thing. They enchant Brad to get him to prune Ravonna.
Yeah, because once the TVA is rebooted, they can actually use their magical abilities inside.
Yes. That was a big comedic moment because the phone ringing that Loki saw in the first episode. So he's in on the loop. We find out Loki is the one who prunes himself. And after Sylvie pops out of the elevator, then he answers the phone, and it's OB, and just like, "Hurry up, where are you?" Which was super anticlimactic. And they grab Victor after enchanting Brad, and Ravonna's done, and they go back to the business of, we got to do something about the loom because it's about to blow. They scan Victor's temporal aura. The blast doors open, and Victor steps up, and he says, "It's got to be me. I got to be the one to go out there." Now, from this instant, I had a crackpot theory while watching the episode. I thought, oh boy, just like they plucked Loki out of time with the loom, with the kind of the radiation that was going on, I thought, oh no, Victor, to me, it was way too convenient that Victor was going to be the guy to go out there. And then I thought, we're getting Kang the Conqueror back this episode. I thought that was going to be the big reveal at the end of the episode.
They showed you.
Yeah. But I was sure of it. I was telling my kids, I was like, Victor's going to go out there and Kang the Conqueror is going to come back in this way, take his spot, take his place. And then Victor went outside and turned into spaghetti, and my jaw hit the floor.
And I was like, hey, he's like Reed.
And by the way, it's not just Reed. One of the variants of Ant-Man, it happens to them. Giant Ant-Man.
Right.
Oh,
in Quantumania, remember?
Maybe he's related to Giant Ant-Man as well.
Spaghettification.
It's a bad theory, Cody. Just accept that it's a bad theory.
Spaghetti.
So yeah, he turns into spaghetti. The radiation destroys Victor. My jaw hits the floor, and we get just a little bit of time to see Loki's face as the time loom explodes. The timeline explodes. Bright light. Then nothing.
That's what we like to call the Big Bang.
It's just a theory.
Okay, so let's go to what's good about this episode. Cody, what was good about this episode?
Loki
or Tom Hiddleston, or both?
All the above.
Yeah, I do like the idea of Loki being more magical. This season being largely confined to the TVA has, and the first season he hasn't been able to use his magic. We haven't seen Magic Loki in a long time. That was what was so cool a few episodes back when he got to use his magic against Brad.
Take that, Brad.
Just Loki. You want to expound on that?
I mean, literally, the scenes he was in, he actually owned, which for a while I have been like, the series is called Loki, but I feel like it could be called TVA.
Yeah. This season I thought has done really well, especially after you get past that first episode. Loki has been, it's been kind of Loki centric with Sylvie kind of in that pocket with him as well.
I feel it's been growing. This episode, we reached the perfect amount of Loki.
Yeah. What else? Anything else that you liked about this episode?
And Tom Hiddleston, like literally his facial acting
in that last shot was amazing.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. I'm like,
Tears.
give him,
you could see him.
the EGOT. Do it now.
We don't even care if he's not in a Broadway musical. Give him a Tony Award. He hasn't won an Oscar, has he?
No, I don't think so.
He's got a long way to go to get to the EGOT.
I was giving him all the awards at once.
I'm assuming he needs all 4 of them still. Matt, what about you? What was good about this episode?
What I liked about this episode, you called it. Yeah, I was all worried about episode 3, and you're like, no, episode 4 is where they tend to give that twist. And I liked that we are going to. There's a big change here, and my theory is that now it's going to reboot, and we're going to see everybody back in their timelines. Because the TVA is gone, so it's going to send people.
Yeah, man, it's not time for crackpot theories yet.
But I liked that. You asked what I liked, and that's what I like.
Yeah,
the crackpot theory.
I think this episode, it goes from being crackpot theory to just probable theory, right? So the episode ends with, what appears to be the TVA being destroyed, but we know from the teasers that before the season started that there was Loki was standing in front of a water ski place. There was those with good eyes went into the detail of what we were looking at. So yeah, there's something. Obviously, there's 2 episodes left, so we know this isn't the end. Although the creators are doing a good job of kind of teasing that. So the Instagram for Loki kind of was playing around with the idea that it's all over. Even though
everyone's spaghetti.
Yeah. And so the theory that the TVA, everyone that was in the TVA is going to kind of go back to what their timeline was supposed to be, maybe. Although we don't know. We're just conjecturing.
It is conjecture.
So I think,
and I have more crackpot theory, but I held that. So
yeah. Well, I think, but I think what you're saying, the good is the ending.
Yes.
I mean, the end of this episode was amazing. It was cool. And it brings back something that's kind of been missing from the phase 5 and phase 4, which is the fun part of speculating about what's going on, what's about to happen. Something's about to happen. What's about to happen? And Loki, the first season of Loki was a big part of that. With the He Who Remains and all that, and what got everyone going in the first place of like, wow, this is cool. Where are they going with this? And so, yeah, I think the end was cool. It sets up a lot of ways that we can entertain ourselves to think about what's going to happen next. Did you have something?
No, I was just going to say that's the good thing about the way this show or episode ended is just that you now have a great mystery. It's not like something mapped out for everyone to know, where before it was like, okay, we got to find Sylvie. Okay, we're finding Victor Timely. Okay, Victor Timely has to fix the loom. Now we don't know what's going on. And mystery is fun. It's exciting. I
can finally go, I think I know what it's going to do. And I haven't been able to do that up to now. It's been sort of like what you're saying. It's just been, I know this is going to happen next, but I don't know what to expand on that because I know what's going to happen next. Now I can go, I've got theories.
Doors wide open.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Loki writer Eric Martin says the next 2 episodes are the best of the series. So
burn
he's
Loki season 1,
saying buckle up. I thought the good of this episode was I love that this show in particular does a great job of combining a nice episode of action where there's a lot of action that's going on. It ends on an action point of like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. But also embedded in the episodes are some real deep themes that they've been carrying throughout. The Mobius thing, I dig thinking about that. We'll come back to that in a second. And I just like the deep themes that are being carried on through this season.
So I do feel like it's a little overhanded that they keep like bringing it up.
In Mobius's case, yes.
Well, Loki and Sylvie, like...
See, I disagree.
Because, Like, she's like, well, you can't side with the TVA, and we need TVA, and oh my goodness.
I'm going to try.
No, okay, let me finish this point. This point is that, like, we could have a debate about if you knew someone had the potential to be a serial killer. You just knew it, that this was it. Then most likely they will be a serial killer. Statistical odds are they're going to be a serial killer.
I mean, do we need to talk about this with you right now? I've had my worries.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I interrupted him. Go.
So my point is like most people will say if there's a chance that they won't be, you can't interfere. And I mean, we literally have profiles. We know people that have this and this and this and this happen in their lives. They're more likely to be prone to violence. They're more likely to be prone to poverty. They're more likely prone to do this, prone to do that. But yet we all live with, okay, we have to have some structure, but we also can't just completely abolish everything. Can't be this or that. And so I feel that it's a mute argument. Like, you can keep tossing it out there, in which they've done almost every episode. But it's ridiculous. Like, because there's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
And so,
yeah.
You just have to live with what is there. And if it wasn't there, then it would be complete chaos.
Okay. I get what you're saying. You're saying they are beating the issue over the head.
Yes.
But I don't think it's really about the issue. I think they're trying to tell you something about Loki and Sylvie. And we'll talk about this when we get back to into the deeper themes here in a minute. What's not so good? I think Cody just told you what he thought was not so good.
I believe you did.
Do you have any more what's not so good?
I mean, I think that, honestly, if you're going to try to get me to think that what Ravonna did with the cube that collapses in and killed everyone is so bad, show it.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised we didn't see,
or show the aftermath.
Yeah, I don't think they didn't show it because it would have been too graphic, because they could have done that in a non-graphic way. I think they just wanted to make you, I think it was an artistic choice, I guess. But I'm with you. I'm not so sure that it was more powerful that way. And especially so you assume they're getting smashed into nothing. And then later on, B-15 comes in the room and does the Eddie Murphy daddy daycare thing, where she's like looking at the bottom and then like scanning across the bottom of the floor and still horrified. And I'm like, wait a minute, they all got smashed into nothingness. There shouldn't be things all over.
Yeah, or the cube is still there. Like,
yeah.
Was the cube still there?
Well, either the cube...
That thing would have had to smash them pretty down.
But I'm saying if the cube was gone, then everything just would have ran.
Ran where?
On the floor.
Oh, yeah. But humans aren't all liquid, though. There would have been chunks.
We're mostly liquid.
Not if you compressed it small enough.
I just vomited in my mouth a little bit. I didn't think we were going to talk about that.
I worked at the ER a lot of years. Humans can, but there can be a lot of liquid.
Yeah. Well, we're 70% water. Is that I don't know if that's a real thing. I just made that up. Is that a real thing?
Everything is 70%
okay,
water.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Matt, what wasn't so good for you?
What wasn't so good for me on this?
You don't have to have anything if you don't have anything.
No, I didn't. I really liked this episode.
Okay. Mine's small, but I have a bone to pick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And because Marvel's been guilty of this before. And this is the stuff I don't like. Okay? Back in the first episode, when Loki was introducing this nice little loop that we found out was going to be a loop, and he's in the TVA when something was going down because it's empty. He's walking down the hallway where the lights are flickering. It's creepy. The phone rings, and it's super creepy. And it's super done in a way to make us think, who's on that phone? Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Why won't he pick up the phone? And it was super creepy. And then, the rest of that scene happens. Sylvie opens up the elevator. He gets pruned from behind. Okay, now we get the payoff for that. And again, the other Loki hears the phone ringing. He prunes himself. The whole scene's happening. And then, like, the phone's ringing. And they're like, the moment's building. Like, the director, the way they're framing the story is like they're both looking at the phone like it's, I don't know if I want to pick this up. This is super creepy. And then to have OB on the line and be like, what's taking you guys so long? Marvel's done this stuff before. I don't like this. You build up these moments to be something big and then you pull the rug out on us. And it's just like, why? Why did you spend the time to make that seem like it was going to be a big deal, only to be like, gotcha. I can't stand that. They've done that with other things, and I'm just not a fan of that.
But Asgard doesn't have telephones. That's why we had to build it up.
I mean, you could do the same thing. I think you could have done the same thing with the phone ringing in the background where he doesn't really pay attention to it the first time instead of building it up. I mean, like, look, the music's wrenching up. You're getting the you're getting close up on the phone. Then you pan back to the actors' faces who are looking at the phone like it's the nuclear phone from the president of the United States or something, you know?
That's what came
like,
in my mind.
The drama's building. Like, why did you do all that? Unless you just were intentionally trying to be, you know, goofy and cute. Oh, it turns out it's just OB. And he's like, where are you at? That's stupid. I hate it.
That really bugged you.
I hate it
a lot. So if you're going to do that, then I'm going to back up and say that something did bug me. Victor Timely did not get to enjoy his hot chocolate.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
That was a bummer. At least let him get a sip.
And like, so I just watched Killers of the Flower Moon, not this weekend, but the previous weekend. And like, Marty Scorsese could have cut out at least 30 minutes from that movie. At least. This episode had a couple minutes it could have cut out.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, there's only a few things that happen in this episode that we really need to know. Now, granted, those are some big things and I enjoyed them. But I think you're right. Like, how much time did we waste with the phone? The phone was completely irrelevant, and we've been asking questions about it since the first episode because you put so much importance on it. You made us put importance on it. And then it was nothing? Don't do that. That's intentional. And I guarantee it's the filmmakers saying, "Oh, this will be cute. We'll do this thing. It'll seem like it's a big deal, and then it won't be a big deal." Don't do that with IP. Don't do that because you know that the culture is we're going to try and figure out what it is, and then you're pulling the rug on us, and I just don't appreciate that at all.
Are you listening, Disney executives and producers and
directors
and writers?
Like, look, Kevin Feige even if he was listening, he doesn't care what I think. I think it's
but I think it's a valid.
I don't think it's a way you treat people who love the material and are fans and are continuing to watch your stuff to continually, I think and especially the Disney Plus shows, I think they do this a lot where like, oh, what's this up here? Look at the right hand. It's something big. Okay, we're going to take it away. And now you'll talk about it for 3 weeks. Like, whoa, what is it? It's a big deal. I think Star Wars does it too. I think it's all the Disney Plus shows.
It's Disney.
Yeah. And then it's like, it was nothing. No, not a fan. Not a fan, brother. Can't do it.
Sorry.
So yeah, obviously I talked about enough where you knew I was annoyed by it in an otherwise episode that left me feeling kind of excited about where it's going. Mm-hmm. Deeper themes. We skimmed this. So the Mobius stuff, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm interested in it. It's interesting to see someone who's like, I'm gonna stick with my average life because I'm afraid if I go out there and I'm afraid there's an exciting, better life out there for me, but I'm afraid. What if it's not? You know, like I think that's a real thing they're playing on. But like Cody said, and like I agree with, I think they're beating us over the head with it. We're gonna find out his life on the timeline is pretty awesome. And yeah, and I don't know. But again, then I'm also afraid of the Disney Plus thing where are you just going to, hint at this, and then you're not going to deal You're not going to give us a clear finish to this? Because next week, if we see Mobius on his timeline and he's selling jet skis and he's got a family that he loves, but then he realizes he's got to get back and save the TVA, and we never talk about it again, I'm going to be upset. Because no, you hit us over the head with this, just like the phone, and he's going to need to deal with the emotional repercussions of all this. So I'm a little annoyed. What I'd rather talk about, Cody, are the deeper themes with Loki and Sylvie that they've kind of been going. They've been hitting it hard. I would agree with that. But I think there's something else going on here. This idea of when you're broken. So Loki and Sylvie obviously is a variant of Loki. Sylvie's gone through some more traumatic stuff, being plucked out of her timeline, all her family gone, everything she knows gone, being chased by the TVA. But they are still the same character. And the same things are happening to them. Or
are they?
They might not be. That's crackpot theory. But here's the thing I think's happening. Sylvie is not as far advanced as Loki has come in the 2 seasons of this show. And that's what he's trying to get her to see. He's trying to get her to see that, like, hey, we can still try to make things better. She's still, okay, when something happens to you and you determine that it's caused by someone else, the first stop is anger, and you want revenge. The world calls it justice, but it's revenge. And some people never make it out of that phase. That's where Sylvie's at. She doesn't like the TVA. She wants them all to suffer.
She needs an Owen Wilson.
Yeah, she does. Because Mobius is the guy that kind of breaks Loki out of that, right? And the whole message of the first season is, can a bad guy stop being a bad guy? Right?
Can he Wreck-It Ralph?
Can he convince himself to not be it? And we said a couple episodes ago, it seems like the message of this season is, can you convince the people around you that you're not a bad guy? Because there was the stuff with Brad and Loki, but now we're getting into this thing where, like, Loki is saying, Sylvie, you need to get out of this place you're in, which is the vengeance phase. Because you realize her and Mobius' story is actually it connects here.
It does.
She's afraid to look into what her life could be because it could be good. And the thing about anger is you get used to the anger. It keeps you warm on the cold nights. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a figure of speech in there, but you get what I'm trying to say. And I think what that was being done there was beautiful because it ends with Loki saying something that was really relevant for us, for anyone watching our times, and really deep. And he says, hope is hard. He said something similar a couple episodes, like, it's harder to stay, right? And what he's talking about is compassion, right? Loki is developing compassion, and the root of the word compassion is co-passion. The root of the original word is co, meaning to walk alongside, passion meaning in suffering. So to walk alongside someone in suffering, in brokenness, Loki has learned to do that. He doesn't have to be here. What's he doing? This isn't his fight, but he's here. He's with the TVA. He's trying to fix things. Sylvie's not there yet. And he's kind of coaching her through these things. Like, it's harder to stay. It's harder to hope.
He's trying to help her heal. And she is stuck. And I think forgiveness is a hard, because then you get into the whole thought of forgiveness and how forgiveness doesn't help the person you're forgiving. It helps you heal. And she can't forgive. And we all go through that.
Yeah.
It's very relatable in life.
Yeah. And it's interesting because she is over here criticizing Mobius, saying, oh, you can't even, you're such a coward. You can't even go see what your life would really be like. And here she is hiding in an alternate. Now she's free. She's had to hide her whole basically life. Now she's free to go anywhere she wants, and she's hiding on a branch timeline. And she's definitely hiding. She's working in a McDonald's, but she has no real relationships. The only relationships we've seen are her employees, the co-employees at the McDonald's. And she's still not really living. She's just kind of hiding somewhere. And so it's interesting to see that her and Mobius are really falling victim to the same thing.
She needs to go see Cody.
What do you think about that, Cody?
So, yeah, I really liked that quote because literally I posted it on Facebook like right as I'm watching the episode. And so, yeah, during it, it's amazing because trying to fix what's hard or trying to fix what's broken is hard. Hope is hard. And so often people that have gone through adverse experiences or trauma, if there's not a good support system, if there isn't some easy wins early on, it's easy to get stuck in everything's hopeless. I might as well stay in my fight or flight mode. It's what helped me survive, and it's what's going to keep helping me to survive. And so it comes across as anger. It comes across as fear and depression and anxiety, those sorts of things. And our minds get stuck in that place just because it's survival mode. And she hasn't had a moment to breathe. She hasn't had glimpses of hope. She hasn't had people pouring into her, except for Loki in the very tail end of the first season. But then that one close contact she had that she had hope in viewed it differently than she did. And so now that person is probably one we can't trust. And so their relationship arc is unique, and I really like it being portrayed out on the big screen or the small screen in this case. But some of the things that, because they keep going back to the TVA, if it should exist, it shouldn't exist, whatever. But this moment was important. This moment was good.
Okay. It's good. I love it. I love the exploration of that. And I think the reason I wanted to defend it, and I interrupted you earlier when you were bagging on the Mobius stuff. Yes, I believe they're hitting it hard, but I think it's that they're going to connect it to Sylvie. I think Sylvie's doing the same thing Mobius is doing. They just haven't connected that yet.
This isn't called Sylvie. It's called Loki.
Sylvie, a.k.a. Loki.
Potentially.
Oh, fine.
Or Enchantress.
Hey, the show was called Frasier, but everyone really cared about Niles.
I've seen Niles in person, but that's another story.
All right. Do we have crackpot theories? Do we have any crackpot theories this
Okay.
week? I have a small one.
So I'll piggyback off Matt. Like, as soon as you get the closing scene of, oh, this all is exploding in Loki's face. I'm like, everyone and their mom's going to go back to their timeline. And maybe someone, such as a deity like Loki, will be the person to try to get everyone to fix this huge problem that no one knows exists yet.
Yeah. Loki and Sylvie being the only ones in that arena that are still left because Victor Timely is gone. But
not forgotten.
But haven't been victims of the mind wiping that the TVA people have. It seems like whatever happens, if everyone resets to some nearby timeline or their original timeline, that they would still remember what happened. And maybe the TVA people don't. And maybe that's the conceit we move forward with. Like I said, though, I don't even think that's a crackpot theory. I think that's obviously where it's where it's going.
I did hear one while we were at a comic convention about the key lime pie.
Yeah, and that kind of deals with that.
And
was it? Elaborate.
Everyone eating the key lime pie, that it's keeping them from remembering things like that.
That the mind wiping is taking place through the pies.
And I call shenanigans on that one. Just because, like, if it's supposed to be mind wiping every time they're eating pie, Mobius would have no memories whatsoever. And Mobius is the most with it out of all of them in this series, that he's like, oh, we got to do this.
He really likes the pie.
He does.
Yeah.
The dude's eating pie all the time.
It's got some Xanax in it.
My crackpot theory is a small one, and I don't really know where it goes. I just know that OB is not who we think he is. I'm not convinced. The whole stuff with Victor Timely and this idea of him being named Ouroboros, he seems awfully connected to He Who Remains and Victor Timely.
Do you think he's a variant?
I don't know.
He's the first non-Jonathan Majors variant, if he is.
My crackpot theory, though, is definitely that he is not who we think he is, and that there's some big reveal waiting as far as it pertains to Obi.
I think you're on to something.
I wonder if this just keeps happening in cycles. That oh, we have the timelines going good. Oh, it crashes. Oh, everyone's gone. Then someone has to fix it.
I think that he's seeing He Who Remains his body in the Time Citadel. I think it's trying to throw you, because I'm still under the belief of my original crackpot theory way back after episode 1 that the multiversal war has not happened yet in as far as it goes with the 616 people.
I think with the time loom exploding, now all of these branches are fully extended, and so I think this is instantly going to. This is my thought, and other people have thought this too. But I think it's that now all of the Kangs that we saw in Quantumania are there.
Yeah, well, I think what this does is
to start the war.
Yeah, the time loom is definitely controlling all these multiverses. I think whatever has happened, I think one of the things that we can surmise is all the controls are off now. And everything's open.
X-Men and Deadpool are in it.
Yeah.
And Reed Richards.
Yes.
Who is the winner of this episode?
That would definitely 155% be Tom Hiddleston. Literally, he didn't even have to have lines this whole episode. They could have just ended or only shown him at the very end with that scene of the TVA about to explode, and his look spoke over 1,000 words.
Iconic. That I've seen that GIF now 100 times already. It's an iconic end scene. Matt, who's the winner of the episode?
I have to agree with Cody. I don't want to, but I'm going to.
Yeah,
it's Loki. It's Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, I'm gonna go different. I've had this thought ever since that episode. I'm gonna go with Miss Minutes.
Yeah,
Miss Minutes.
That's the only other person you could.
Miss Minutes wins this episode because I think she fully becomes the villain of the series, of the season. I think she's the worst. And I think we're supposed to feel that and think that, and I think it's awesome.
She's the heel.
From the minute she starts she starts getting excited when Ravonna is, killing the people, and you see her in the background and her eyes oh my gosh, I didn't think you could portray so much emotion in animated eyes, but boy, they did. And I think whoever's, we bag on this, the FX, the special effects a lot here in the last couple phases.
And you're going to hear it in a couple weeks.
with the Marvels. But Miss Minutes, what they're doing with her has been fabulous. And I thought she ruled this episode. Cody, who's the loser of the episode?
This might be a first. Sylvie.
Yeah. She seems like, other than the scene with Loki where you get the deep stuff, it's such an afterthought with her.
It's an afterthought, and also they have her. So, she was strong and tough in season 1, although very broken. And now that, everyone, their mom has moved on and she's still stuck, she just seems.
She was one of the 2 major, if we add Mobius, one of the 3 major cogs of the first season.
Yes.
And especially her and Loki. And you're right. I think this season, she feels like such an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think we're waiting for some big reveal, though, with her.
Oh, yeah.
To make this all make sense. But I'm with you. I don't disagree with that. Matt, who's your loser of the episode?
I would go with Ravonna.
Ravonna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering what happened to her. Where
It's I didn't feel like it just felt all over the place for her in this episode.
Yeah.
She was angry and then she was pruned and
So is she in the place where Loki was when he
I
got
believe
pruned?
we're gonna I think
with
we're-
Eliath?
When remember the other
There's other Lokis there.
the other gentleman got pruned as well that episode.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna.
Brad?
Well, no, it wasn't Brad. No, it was
Brad's still alive.
The guy that it was with Victor Timely. I don't think he even had a name.
Oh, the other guard. The
Yeah,
other
right.
TVA guy.
TVA
Yeah.
guy. There you go.
Okay. Yep.
I think we're gonna hear more
Ravona's a
about
weird character for me. Clearly she's got like this past with He Who Remains, and I don't know if I'm supposed to feel anything for her because I really don't. When she's on the screen, even the beginning, it was kind of cool the way they ended the last episode. It was like, oh, you're really going to be angry in this, and like, oh, what is it? I'm mildly interested, but you know what? I'm not mildly interested in her character at all.
They didn't expand on her enough.
No.
They just sort of like, bleh.
They're doing a bad job with her, in my opinion. My loser of the episode, I was gonna say Jonathan Majors, even though he gets great scenery, great scenes with Victor Timely, and he's Kang. So, I mean, clearly we're still gonna be using him. I just thought there would be more by now. And I wonder if Marvel's known for rewriting stuff up until the last minute. I wonder if his whole legal things side note, the girl who accused him of all this is getting charged. That was the big news drop this week. So it's looking more and more good for him.
Yes, I have been paying attention to that.
But for Victor Timely to walk out and get spaghetti, I mean, that just threw me, and I just don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I wonder if his part got written more out of the end what we're going to see in these last two episodes.
I think it was he was a scapegoat. I think he was meant to get spaghettified. I think that's sort of like that loop thought that Cody was saying, and I think you said it as well, is that the whole reason he gave him the TVA book is he's not even really going to be a Kang. He was just sort of like a scapegoat, and they'll go after him to try to bring him back, and he can't do it, and he didn't do it.
I still feel like we're getting King the Conqueror.
So
somewhere in these last two episodes.
Yeah, because the specific piece that Victor had that OB did not have, I mean, that's in Quantumania.
Was it?
Or not Quantum, Ant-Man.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Was it the same thing?
It was more like the final version of it.
Why is nobody talking about this? I guess that's us. We should be talking about this.
So, I mean, I think that he had to bring that part into play.
Okay.
And maybe that's all that Kang variant's supposed to do is, hey, I've been working on this.
It was a post-credit scene, correct? With Victor Timely?
No.
On Quantumania?
Oh, in Quantumania. Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was a post-credit scene, not in Quantumania, was it? Or was it?
I don't know.
No. I don't know either. Hey, very quickly, how many Infinity Stones out of 10 are you giving this episode, Cody?
We're building. I'll go 8.
8? Matt?
8.
I'm going 7. There were things in this episode that just bugged me, although I really liked the end.
The hot cocoa, hope is hard, Loki's face. That's all you needed.
There was some good stuff in there, but you could have told me the story in 15 minutes. 15 minutes was all what it took. All right. The ding means our time's up. Thanks, Bill Gates. What do you think about the episode? Our fellow listeners, Pop Culture Pastor Watch Along Ites, as Hulk Hogan might have said. Tell us what you think on the social media, and we'll see you next time.